Hey everyone, Urban Fish Keeper here. Hope you're all doing well and you've had a good weekend. Tonight's video is quite a late one. It's actually Sunday evening here and it's well past 7, so I've had a busy day, but I thought I'll still get a video out. And what I wanted to do today is I wanted to go through how to build an internal filter. Now, as always, I use the Kmart 20-litre tanks as the to show the concept on and build on, but effectively what I'm going to do, the tank size doesn't matter. Right, so in one of my previous videos, and really at the end of the day, it's about how you can build relatively cheaply an internal filter in just about any aquarium. Now, a good few weeks ago, it could even be months, I can't remember, I built this internal hang-on filter, and I took through the build, and I've got a video up on how I did the build, and I did it out of acrylic. And as you can see in the back, it has effectively 3 compartments. One compartment is the inlet, and this compartment is the outlet, and in the center you put your media, and that's what it looks like from the front. Now, when I built this, I said you can do exactly the same thing as what I'm doing here directly into an aquarium, and normally we would build it out of glass, but there's another product you can use that's actually really cheap and works really well, and it's easy for most people to work with. So what I want to do now is I'm going to show you the product that I use and how to go about building the internal filter. All right, so let me just get this out of the way. Okay, and you can see behind me here, I've running out of space. I've got fish in here now, and there's a whole lot of babies being raised, and I'll give an update on that at some stage. All right, so what I've done so far is, okay, before I tell you what I've done, let me tell you what the product is that I use. So the product is called Sunlight, and it comes in 2. You get a clear, and then you get the one that I like to use if I'm going to build an internal filter, which is this one, which is like a smoke. It's almost like a grey smoky color. All right, it's called Sunlight 8mm Solar Grey. Right, and it's a multi-wall polycarbonate sheet. Now, by multi-wall, what that means is that, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the camera, but if you look at it from the end, it's actually 2 layers with almost like little rectangles in between that run a core that runs all the way down the product, and you'll probably see it better in the little pieces that I've cut. Now, for the internal filters, I like to use the grey color or the darker color. Quite a few keepers across the world have been using the clear one for many years for the tanks, the covers for their tanks, and it's a really good product for that because it doesn't really bend. It's quite rigid, it's light, it can take a fair amount of abuse. It's a really good product. So the one that I'm using is the grey one. Now, a sheet like this is 1.2 meters, and I'm not too sure what the height of the sheet is. It's not telling me there. 1.2 meters. Yeah, I'm guessing it's probably about 60 across. 1.2 by 60. That's what I think the size is. I've bought this from my local Bunnings store, my local hardware store. But again, it's just, you know, what you're looking for is the multi-wall polycarbonate. I think it's polycarbonate sheet. Right. So what I've done is, and I've only recently glued this so far, so let's hope this doesn't fall apart while I'm trying to show this. So what I've done is this is effectively going to fit in this aquarium like this. Okay, so we're going to silicone that in against the back, and I'll show you that now. I've drilled 1 hole, which is the outlet, and in the case of this one, I'm going to use the uplifts that I've shown in one of my previous videos, which is the jet uplift, the one that does a much higher volume of water. It pushes about 220 liters on what the air that I'm providing, about 220 liters an hour. So I'm going to use one of those, and effectively the outlet goes in there. Then on the other side, this side here, you've got the inlet, and all I've done there is I've just taken a bit of grid, this plastic grid that you can buy at most aquarium shops or electrical or shops, and I've just siliconed a piece in there. Depending on the size of the fish, you can either put mesh there, you can even put quite a piece of coarse sponge, whatever you want can go over there, but that's where the water, that's the inlet for the water. The water will flow over or skim over the surface. The surface water is skimmed and then goes into chamber number 1. So if you have a look at it from behind, okay, the water goes over in chamber number 1, goes under through this little chamber number 2, and the reason I've created a little chamber number 2 is so that I can have my media in chamber number 3. It then goes, so it goes in the side, goes underneath here, it goes over through my filter media, so the media will be in this chamber here, and then it goes back up this side where the water is then pumped out. Now the great thing about using this material is a full-size sheet like this I think cost me, I think it was about $29. Now that means that you could do, you could do this on a 4-foot aquarium. You could do this on a 4-foot might, if you're doing, if you're doing the ends, that's fine. If you've got a 4-foot aquarium and you're running the filter this way, you may just be short, but possibly not on 1.2 on the inside. And if you're doing 3-foot or anything like that, it's fine. Now, you can use these filters in 2 ways. You can either build it that it fits in on the side of your aquarium. So if you've got a very big aquarium, you can have one on each side. Or you can build it along the back of your aquarium, the whole back length of the aquarium. What's great about it is the product itself is reasonably cheap. It's easy to work with. You can cut it with a saw. I've just used the band saw. You could probably use a really, a standing knife, but just be really careful with it to cut it as well. I just sand the edges, the plastic edges, so it's not too sharp. And that's it. And I just use aquarium, at the moment I'm just using Sealy's glass, which is aquarium silicone, to glue it. Now, this is not a structural item. If I was doing it out of glass, the glass would be a structural item. This is not. So what is really important when you use filters made out of this kind of material and you've got it in there is when you fill it up, make sure that you put water on both sides. You don't want to apply too much pressure on the one side and expect this to take all the pressure till it overflows and then fills up the other side. So put water on both sides so you keep the pressure the same, and then it works fine. But the great thing is, because of the price of the product and the ease of use, is all you really need is an old power head that you've got, or a little submersible pump or something, and you've got a tank standing there. You don't want to buy a canister filter for it. You don't want to do something else. You want to have some sort of filtration. You want to choose what kind of media you want to use. If you're doing it in a marine tank, you can put coral and everything else in here. In a freshwater tank, you can put some, bioballs in there, and you could put carbon in, and whatever media you would like. You could put some sponge in there, some filter wool on the one side. So it works. And what I'm going to do with this one is I'm actually going to set this one up, and I'm actually going to run it, and I'll show you how I'm going to run it. And as a test, I may even try and run it with salt water, but we'll see. Now, when you're doing small aquariums like this, you're better off just going with a Madden filter, to be honest, because the Madden filter, for those of you that watch my previous videos, the Madden filter is just a piece of sponge that fits in. It's got a hole through the center. It's got the uplift, pulls the water from behind the sponge, pushes it through to the other side, and the water is then filtered through the sponge. In these kind of aquariums, that to me is probably the best option. But as soon as you go up or scale up in aquarium size, then building in filters with this kind of material is actually not a bad option. If you build it in with glass, there's a couple of challenges. One is you need to make sure you get your measurements spot on immediately. The other thing is that, you know, if it's not 100% and you're going to try and cut it yourself, if you're not comfortable with that or haven't worked with glass, then you may end up cracking it and therefore wasting all your money you spent on buying the glass. The other thing as well is once you've got glass in and you've actually used silicone to bond that glass, getting it out is not that easy. Yes, you can use a blade and you can, you know, get through and you can get it out, but it's not easy because you have to get the attachments to the back as well as the sides out, so it becomes a bit challenging. With this polycarbonate material, the great thing about this is that if you don't like it, yes, you take a blade on the side, but you can almost pull it out because it's creating a watertight seal, which makes your filter effective, but it's not creating integrity to the structure of your aquarium in any way, and it's not becoming, you know, a permanent fixture as such. Now, as I said, you know, it's that double walled, and maybe you can see it a bit better there, where you can see it's double walled. Right, so what we're going to do now is that in general, that's the design, and make it as big as you like. Have as many compartments as you want. Just remember your first compartment where you come in, you want this piece to be at the top so it forces the water down. Your last compartment, you want that to be at the top as well so it forces the water underneath and back out. Now you can modify this as well on the inlet side, this side here, to have an intake at the bottom as well, and you have this side piece going all the way down to the bottom, but you have a gap in the center cut out. You have a piece at the top, a piece at the bottom, a gap in the center. You can have your holes at the bottom and it can take water from the bottom and water from the top. Now, instead of using a grid like this, like I said, you can use a piece of sponge, you can just drill holes in it. It depends on the kind of water flow you want to get and how much water flow you want to get. You can also take a piece of acrylic, you know, cut nice little slots in it and then just silicone that in. So what we're going to do now is I've only siliconed this less than an hour ago, so let's hope this goes okay. Now when you silicone in this piece into your aquarium, and I'll try and do it in such a way that it can be seen, what you want to do is you want to put silicone on the bottom piece, you want to put silicone on the backs, but you don't want to put silicone on these ends or the bottom or the sides. And the reason I say that is when you push it in, because it's flush up against the sides, you're just going to have silicone being smeared everywhere. So what I prefer to do is to push it in, have at the bottom, have at the back, push it up against, and then take silicone afterwards and run a bead on the inside of the aquarium around as I require. All right, so let's do this quickly. Let's get that out there. All right, so okay, silicone down the backs. Bear with me while I do this. Okay. Now ideally if you make this gap, these compartments nice and big so that you can get your hand in, that's ideal, because then you can actually smooth off the silicone and make it look decent. Although it's at the back of the aquarium and you don't see it, I like to, wherever possible, make it look neat. All right, so I've got one. Okay, and then we've got silicone on the bottom. All right, so that's what it looks like. We've got silicone on the bottom, silicone on all of those. Now what I'm going to do is, and I'll swing it around now, is I'm going to push it in. And this is the part that I'm worried about, because I've only done this, because I've only silicone the other pieces about an hour ago. Okay, just get it till it almost touches the glass, then start going down. Okay, and once you're down, then go forward. Okay, now you might get it going a bit skew, which is going to make the smear marks, which is what I didn't want it to happen because of, and because I can't get my hand in there, it makes it very difficult now to clean it off. And you want this to be reasonably sealed, because you don't want the water to bypass. You want the water to have to travel the path that you've made underneath the filter. And ignore this method that I use for smoothing of silicone. Don't do it. Okay, so if I turn it around, that's what it looks like at the back. Okay, that's where it's, now what I want to do now ideally is put it down and apply some weight, some sort of weight on there to make sure that it is reasonably straight. Okay. Oh. Okay, don't want to put too much pressure. But if you make it a bit bigger and you've got a bit more space, then it makes it easier. All right, now what I'm going to do is I am now going to seal the edges. Okay, run a bead down this side, run a bead down the back, down the end, okay, just picked up a piece there, and again, don't use that method. It's the way I've built tanks my whole life. Don't recommend it. You shouldn't be getting the stuff in your mouth. But it's the way that I find works best for me to smooth off the silicone. Okay, and there you go. So that's what that looks like, smoothed off. Right, hopefully you can see that. And from the back, that's the compartments. So what I'll do now is I will find something with a bit of weight. Just give me a second, let me grab something with weight just to put on top of that. Okay, there's little bags that come with the Kmart filters. Make sure it's not on the silicone. Okay, and there we go. So a little bit of weight on it. Make sure that it's all straight. If you can get your finger in there, to smooth off the silicone edge, then try and do that. I can't get all the way down. Maybe I can get down there with the nozzle. I doubt it though, but we'll try. No. All right. Okay, well, that's it. There's probably not a lot more to go through. I just wanted to share with you how to build an internal filter, and you know, a cheap way of doing it. If you've got an old power head and you've got a tank standing there and you want to get better filtration because you want to, you know, maybe increase the bioload or put a lot more fish in it, then you know, then this method is the way to go. And this stuff is really good to work with, and from a price point of view, perfect. So give it a try. You know, if it doesn't work, you just cut the silicone and pull the polycarbonate out, and it's not a problem. So yeah, give it a try, and let me know if there's any other further questions. Just put them in the comments. What I'll do is I'll let this dry now, and then I will actually set this up on the shelf. I'll take one of the other ones off, and we'll set this one up with some media and so forth in there, so you can see exactly what it looks like when it's up and running. I'm not too sure what we'll put in it, but we'll set it up. We'll put media in it. I might make a little cradle to fit in the media section as well, so that it's easier to take in and out if we want to wash out any of the media. And look, you know, this one I probably could have taken up a bit more space of the tank, so that I could get my hand in and be able to work the silicone better. But you know, this is a tiny tank, and normally you wouldn't do it with a tiny tank like this. You would just use, like I said, the Madden filter. Right guys, that's it. I just wanted to share this quickly with you. Quick and easy project. Building your own filter internally in your tank. Either run it with air, run it with a power head. Use the polycarbonate sheet. You know, so the multi-wall polycarbonate sheet. You can get it from your local hardware store. Great product to work with, easy to work with. You know, you can build in on the sides, you can build in the back, you can build half a back. It really doesn't matter. It's your imagination, however you want to do it. The only thing I will say is that the gaps, so you've got 3 compartments, the overflows, make sure that you give enough there based on the power head or the method that you're using for pumping the water back in the tank. If those overflow gaps and the one underneath and the one over the top are not big enough, then what you'll find is the power head will pump the water out a lot quicker than the water can get through the system. So, you know, if you've got the space, make it nice and deep, make it nice and long, make those compartments a really good sized compartment. You can get so much media in there, and then, you know, give a nice overflow, and really you base the overflow on how, you know, what you want your water level to be. Okay, enough said. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed doing something like this, trying to give this a go, build an internal filter. I'll give you an update once it's dry and it's running, so you can see what it looks like in action. Other than that, have a good week. Stay safe, look after yourselves. Till the next video, Urban Fish Keeper out.